I'm Alan Ross with EPRA and Transformer Technology. This is a profile that we're doing on TechCon. It is the conference that has been put on for years, I think since 1996. Is that right, Herman? The THB has done it?
That is correct. It started in 1996 in New Orleans.
I was going to say that, New Orleans, but this year, because of COVID and circumstances, this is the first virtual TechCon, and I've got two of the old guard from TechCon. I don't mean that because you're old, okay, guys? I mean that because you've been around TechCon for a long time. But my guests today are Randy Williams, who is currently with NAS, North American Substation Services, and a subsidiary company that he'll talk about in a minute. And welcome, Randy. It's good to have you here, brother.
Great to be here.
Yeah. And Wayne Bishop, and he and I bump into each other all over the place. Wayne is with Omicron, but he is also the vice president of, no, Wayne, don't correct me because I like this title, Vice President of Meetings and AHA at IEEE. Is that good? Yeah.
So, PES. Thanks, Alan.
Yeah, PES. Wayne is very heavily involved in PES. And Herman Vogel with TJH2B is in charge of development for TJH2B, but one of the senior leaders of direction of TJ. We're going to be talking about TechCon, gentlemen, because what we want to do is talk to people who have come to encourage them to come to the virtual conference. But more importantly, we want to talk to an audience that maybe has not yet heard of or understands why they should come to TechCon or the value. And the reason I think having you gentlemen on here is because you have been part of the planning committee, you've been part of what goes on at TechCon. And from the industry standpoint, I appreciate that you have been engaged in it. But I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. The first one, and we'll start with Randy. We're going to end with you on this, Herman. So okay. The first question is, I'm a relatively new person in the industry, meaning I'm a relatively new engineer with a utility or an OEM, a manufacturer, or somebody in the industry. Why TechCon? What am I going to get out of TechCon that's of value? So Randy, you get to go first, my brother.
Okay. Well, what I like about TechCon is the people that you get there are normally really diverse. It could be a guy with boots on the ground inside the substation, or it could also be that VP that's in charge of everything. So you get a big picture look, from the ground up of the whole utility business itself. So the other thing is it's always about relationships and building those relationships and that learning. It's not that you can learn everything when you sit there. What you do is you meet people that have all the answers, and you have those go-to people that can help you in the industry, to advise you or, just wherever you're at with whatever question that you have.
One of the things about you, Randy, that I loved is I remember I was at a conference that you were speaking at, and I asked you something about bushings, and you said, anytime you have a question or you need to know something about that, call me. And that is what happens, is the networking, where now I got a connection. If I had a question about bushing, I think I emailed you right after that, and you ended up writing an article for us. But thank you for that, because it is the relationships that matter. Wayne, why do you think TechCon is important to the person that's never come before?
So this is a great opportunity, Alan, this year to attend if you've never attended before, because it's going to be a virtual event. And like most of the conferences these days in our industry right now, they're all virtual. So there's no need to buy a plane ticket or book a hotel room or worry about a rental car. You can just come from the luxury of your home or your remote office and attend. And why it's good to attend is it's practical. In addition to what Randy said, the relationship building, it's practical. You'll learn things at TechCon that you can immediately put into practice at your utility. And it's there's a lot of lessons learned and best practices shared. In fact, they have several papers that are being offered this year on COVID-19 and how the utility industry is responding to COVID-19 in terms of resiliency and reliability and so forth. So a lot of good practical papers that you can put into immediate use when you get back to your utility. Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. And so, Herman, it's the first virtual conference.
Yeah.
We just got a mention of that. So Wayne said, hey, you don't have to buy a ticket. You don't have to buy a hotel room. From your perspective, what is the benefit of it being virtual? So why should I come and do this thing?
Well, the virtual conference, that you can go into any room that you want for the training track and participate. We offer NETA accreditation for NETA members. The learning suites, it allows the companies actually to bring you into their domain as opposed to just the booth area. Okay, so it gives you more advantages to network with people that can't travel.
One of the most important things about trying to do these things virtually, and I have participated in several of them. And one of the things that we find out is that if you don't have that ability to, as you said, training tracks and the ability to go into private spaces, and that's technological. So obviously the company that's helping you put this on has helped you with that. But people leave virtual conferences sooner than they would leave a real conference. Because if you bought an airline ticket and you bought a hotel room, you're not going to go anywhere, and you tend to hang around and you tend to participate. You've got to keep people engaged in a virtual world. I mean, it's not just about content; it's about delivery, and it's about how we keep people engaged. So, you're the first one to answer this one. Herman, how do you see this conference being different to be able to keep people engaged so that when somebody comes and they're done at the end of it, they go, wow, I just spent days getting something, as opposed to going on a webinar and hearing somebody talk about something?
Well, we think outside the box every year. Every year we try to bring something new. The last conference we had in Florida, we brought the Captain Chris Green, the fire chief from Seattle, on vault transformers and what kind of safety issues are there. There's a joint safety training done with SRP, Salt River Project, and Captain Chris Green from the Seattle Fire Department. That's thinking outside the box. You're looking at the COVID panel. Duke Energy has gone around Duke Energy to do interviews, and they have filmed these interviews, which will be presented as opposed to a presentation. So you're bringing films in there, you're bringing different types of experts in there, but everybody's in your world. Okay, yeah. It's not always the standard same thing. If you go into the virtual suites, they can have breakout rooms. So you can have private conversations or group conversations, or you could have tours of the facilities. So it's thinking outside the box and bringing the best speakers that are there, that are vibrant. If you look at Chris Root, he's our new chair. He's very engaged and active when he speaks and roams around. We try to keep them engaged. We'll have commercial breaks as well. Instead of the Super Bowl commercial, it'll be the Super TechCon commercials.
Okay.
So there's a lot of different flavors to that. And we live in a small knit industry, and everybody knows each other. And we try to bring the best speakers on board that we can from the planning meeting, from the people that participated in that. It's a conference that's put together by the people, not by an individual.
You sound like it's for the people, by the people. You sound like a politician, Herman.
I'm not a politician, but
I know what you mean.
I was just going to say, if I could add one thing on to what Herman just said. All these presentations, we should mention, are not sales pitches. They're really, really technical. And the presentations that are given are by thought leader experts. So we have Dr. Alex Apostoloff, who's world-renowned in our industry. He's an IEEE fellow. He'll be speaking on AI, which is a huge topic these days. As Herm mentioned, Chris Root is the chair, and he's from Velco. Charles Sweetser, who a lot of you know, they're involved with Transformers. Charles Sweetser is a colleague of mine from Omicron, but he's also chair of the FRA working group for IEEE. His paper is going to be very application oriented, and I wrote down the title of it. It's Review, Understanding, and Interpretation of Industry Field Test Limits on Transformers. So that's on Transformers, but as Randy was saying earlier, the subject matters cover the whole area of substation operations, breakers, transformers, bushings, everything to do with substations. And then you have this whole COVID thing and what's going on with COVID and how utilities are reacting to it and what's happening as a result of resiliency and reliability. But I can't stress enough, my feeling is that this is one of the industry's best kept secrets, is TechCon, in terms of the technical program that they deliver. So I'd encourage you to come take a look at it.
And that's what we're trying to change. That is the message. So for those of you listening to this, that is the message. When somebody like Wayne says it's one of the best kept secrets, or Randy supports it, Herman can say it because he's with TJ, but when industry experts, we've had John McDonald say the same thing. We've had Chris Root say the same thing. So I have heard about TechCon, and I would say that the quality of the content and the speakers has always been high. And the way you've approached it with your training tracks and everything is high. So I'm pretty excited about attending on the virtual and seeing how it goes. Randy, you mentioned something I want to get back to, the diversity of who this is for. But I've listened to Chuck Sweetser, and he's pretty smart. I mean, Chuck can deliver at this level, right? Randy, you can deliver at this level. The boots on the ground guy, talk about, because there is that boots on the ground, then there's the substation engineer, then there's the engineer back home. But if you've got AI and ML, you also want to have your, now you want to have your data scientists involved, because that's really who's doing this. So you're talking about a really diverse audience of people that could come and get value from TechCon. How do you think they knit it all together this year? I know it's a hard question, but the boots on the ground guy, what will he get from Chuck's talk versus the AI guy versus that engineer back at the office?
I think I was kind of self-taught because I'd made so many mistakes by presenting the first times I went out to a customer and everything, is that I learned that everybody wants to start off at the high end and talk all the technical talk. And what you really need is a basic 101 to start with.
Yeah.
And because if I'm talking about a product and I'm talking about my product, what I try to do is talk about how it's designed, manufactured, and tested before it ever comes to you. Because what's not in the instruction book is how something can fail. And for you to understand how something can fail, whether it's the product itself or something that influences the failure, yeah. If you know how it's manufactured and how it's designed, it helps you understand the root cause that could happen in the field. So all of a sudden, the guy that's inside the substation, when he's looking at something, he recognizes there's a problem. He understands maybe why there's a problem because he now knows how it was designed and manufactured. So I think starting from the basics and then moving into the higher technical portions of it really help people understand what's inside a substation.
How are you handling that, Herman, with different tracks for different people? Do they have choices to go into different areas? How's that handled virtually?
The price is all inclusive. You can go into any training track that you want, or watch any paper panel on the Tuesday, on the Wednesday. Thursday is reserved for training tracks. We have 6 training tracks, 2 in parallel as we go down, but the 2 that are opposing each other are different topics, so they don't kind of overlap. We have, for example, the first 2 training tracks. One is on the new C57104 that was only released a year ago. Yeah. People are just starting to get into that. And in parallel with that is the bushing training from Siemens and Trench, okay? So then you roll down to the next 2. They can go to any one of the training tracks that they wish to go to. It's all open. I'd also like to stress, there's a lot of upcoming engineers from university that are working at utilities. Yeah. We have talked with utilities. If they have any engineering students that are working, tell them to get a hold of us and we'll give them a free pass to these training programs and get them on their way to the higher end, to wherever they want to go.
That's the secret to success for the future, is get the younger people involved. Wayne knows that. He's one of the passionate people about that at IEEE, which Pat Ryan used to really, was just a master of that. John McDonald, your peers over there understood very clearly how getting the younger people involved. And, one of the things, Randy, that you mentioned, the guys with the boots on the ground are the backbone of the industry. And the more that we can serve them, bring them into these kinds of things, the more we can bring young people in. Because I guarantee you, a young guy, an engineer, who somehow connects virtually with that guy with boots on the ground is going to get more legacy knowledge in 10 minutes with that guy than he'd ever get sitting in a classroom with a professor. And if anybody here's a professor, don't yell at me, but you get the point. I love what you're doing. Last comments, just real quick. Anything else you'd like to add about TechCon? This is the second of the third one of these that we're going to do, but we support it. EPRA supports it as an industry. Transformer Technology supports it because knowledge and understanding leads to insight, leads to wisdom. Any last thoughts or comments? We'll start with you, Randy.
Yeah, I know it's going to be different, and everything's turned different because it's virtual these days. But I've been to so many conferences that TechCon is not too big and it's not too small. It's very intimate. And some conference you go to, I have a choice of going to 5 different rooms or training or something that I want to see, but they're all at the same time.
Right.
And then I can't see it. I really believe that because it's more intimate, it allows people to be themselves, to either ask a question and get more engaged. Because sometimes these guys that are the first time comers, boots on the ground guys, and there's 1,000 people in the room, they're not going to ask the question because they think it's a stupid question. And then somebody else asks the question and go, see, I could have asked that question. So I think it's because it's intimate and it's small enough that you can get engaged with everybody with the time that's allowed.
Excellent. Good. Wayne, last thoughts?
Sure. So thanks, Alan. Just 2 quick points. First up, we need to all be trained more often, especially with all the changes that are happening in the utility industry these days, not to mention the pandemic. And one topic that sort of piqued my interest is Alexei Passo from ComEd. He's the Director of Distribution Planning, Smart Grid and Innovation at ComEd, is going to give an IEEE paper called A Strategy to Increase Industry Resiliency in Response to COVID-19. So he's going to be sharing these best practices with the rest of the group. So that's one. And then 2, all of the attendees will receive a copy of the actual paper, not the PowerPoint, but an actual, I would call it IEEE style paper, where there's an abstract and a conclusion and everything supporting what the paper is about. So in the case of Chuck Sweetser, his paper that we spoke about earlier, it's just about 20 pages long. So it's a good resource to go back to at a later date when you want to do some more research. But far and few between are there conferences these days that give you this type of knowledge and this type of actual paper that you can take home, if you will, with you and then refer to at a later date.
Excellent. Excellent. And you've got it, Herman. You've got the final word before I cut us off.
I invite everybody to go see our program. See what you like. One registration, see everything or anything that you want in that program itself. We will send out a bag with the material, the contents, the thumb drives to every participant that comes into TechCon.
Okay.
One thing I do want to say, we would not have such a successful TechCon if it wasn't for the members that participated in the planning committees like Wayne, Randy, and many others like Duke Energy and SRP, utility commitments. It's all for one and one for all as we move forward. I know it's political, but it's the way we do it.
Now you're a musketeer, okay?
I'm a musketeer, yeah.
One of the things that, as I've learned is this, so I'll close us out on this section. One of the things I've learned is that when it's by practitioners, for practitioners, it is something that leaves lasting value. And all three of you guys on here are practitioners in the industry. You play different roles, but those are the kind of conferences that mean the most. Those are the kind of conferences that have a lasting impact on people's careers and on the companies that they work for. So it's really quite simple to me. You want to add value to the company you work for? It's a lot cheaper to do it this year because it's virtual. And you want to add value to your career? Come to TechCon because it will pay off. I'm Alan Ross. I'm the president of EPRA. I get to do this fun thing with some of the great people in this industry. And our guest today, again, Randy Williams from NAS. And Randy, we didn't get to ask you about the other company that, the small company that is a manufacturing company. What was that again? Your
control cabinet company called Nomos.
Control cabinets. I want to talk to you about that later on because we're doing a whole series of motor control cabinets and the impact of power quality on them. I'll be back to you. Wayne Bishop from Omicron and IEEE. Wayne, it is great to see you again. And Herm Vogel from TJH2B. Thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate a lot. TechCon, go there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.